Bring in more revenue while saving money and differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack vying to win those guests by becoming more environmentally friendly. We will show you how easy it is and how cheap it can be, if not free, and share all the opportunities available. So join us each week as we take another step along the green path. That's one more step to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. Proudly sponsored by the Book Direct Show, a green vacation rental conference. Learn more at bookdirect.show. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Path podcast. Today, my special guest is located all the way over in sunny Scotland. Today, I'm chatting with Tara Scott from Click Book Stay. Hello, Tara. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing, Deborah?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Now, Tara, let's start at the very beginning. I'm not going to quote Julie Andrews. So, how did you start on your Green Path journey? Where did you start, and why and how?
Very good question. I mean, I think I had started personally quite a number of years ago. For me, probably one of my real passions is nutrition. And I think my path to sustainability started through nutrition and looking at ways of getting good nutrition, but eating seasonally, growing my own vegetables, things like that. And I think once you start delving into how you can improve something, whether it's your diet, your health, your well-being, I think it leads you on to other paths, and that's certainly what happened with me. And my husband Paul, he's a marine biologist and keen scuba diver, so he's been doing a lot of work and involved a lot with coastal sustainability and looking after our oceans. So the two have kind of married together and have then kind of caused us to stop for a second and really look at the business and look at how we can actually bring our values into that as well. So I think that journey really started, in terms of Click Book Stay, that journey started seriously at the beginning of the first lockdown during COVID, because it gave us the headspace to really stop and evaluate the business and what we were wanting to do and how we were wanting to take it forward. And we realized through conversations with each other that the sustainability was a key part of our beliefs and what we really wanted to do going forwards. So, yeah.
And what did you implement then in your business?
Well, initially we did a lot of research on how we could impact, because obviously not owning the property, we have got limitations as to what we can do and how we can impact on a greater level. So we kind of did do quite a lot of research, and what we decided to do was, first of all, start with what we can change ourselves. So we looked at making sure that we were using sustainable suppliers. So we question every supplier that we work with. We were buying in bulk where we could. So if it was having to be transported from another part of the country or whatever, we buy in bulk, so we're not having to have transport miles. We looked at our energy usage. We also decided that where we were doing, property management, we would start implementing certain things there as well. So instead of having the little travel plastic bottles of toiletries, etc., we started to get environmentally friendly toiletries and refillable. So we basically just top them up every let. We use things like Splosh. We use Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. So things that are Splosh. So Splosh is refillable, environmentally friendly. Things like shower gels and dishwasher tablets and things like that.
Okay, is that a UK brand?
It's a UK brand, and Bob Garner actually put us onto them. So one of the early conversations I had around sustainability was actually with Bob a few years ago. So that was really, really helpful for kind of getting us a starting point and what to look for.
Yeah.
We
And
also
you mentioned Don't Give a Crap. That's a nice
Mhm.
Aussie company, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
That's great. Well, you're getting the toilet paper from them. I can't remember the story about that. I do recall the marketing story, but I might have to get the CEO on and talk about toilet paper.
Absolutely. And the fab thing as well, and especially like coming through COVID, etc. I mean, the fact that they're all individually wrapped. So it's a bit of a win-win. Guests are going into properties and feeling, a bit more safe in the knowledge that nobody else has been handling it, etc. But equally, we're working with a company that's given back. So that was really important. We also kind of did things like we spoke with our web company, and we've made sure that they're using responsible hosting. So we've got the green hosting there as well. We in the properties where we're doing property management, we use green cotton linen. So the linen is from sustainable the cotton's from sustainable sources, and it's also washed to COVID compliancy, but it's actually washed to 40 degrees. So again, just basically speaking a lot with suppliers, I guess, has been the key for us, and making sure that the people that we're working with have thought about sustainability and have policies and processes in place that match what we're trying to achieve as well.
Yeah. Have you spoken to the property owners in terms of helping them become a bit more greener in their own property?
Absolutely. So we took the stance that we would start with the things that we could change and control ourselves. And then what we decided to do was then look at educating our owners. So a big process of what we're doing is looking at is working with our owners closely and encouraging them to make steps and make changes to the properties that have a positive impact. Most of them are using things like LED light bulbs, and we're doing recycling. And encouraging guests to be part of that as well. We'll also encourage guests to shop locally when they're at the properties. So trying to get that whole shop local and community thing happening as well.
Yeah, because there are three levels. There's your business, and there are the owners, and there are the guests. So it's great that you're encouraging the guests to be part of the journey as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's trying to make people see that no matter how small a change that they make, it has a positive impact. And the more small changes we all make, the bigger impact, positive impact it'll have overall. And once you get started on the journey, it's quite addictive. You actually want to do more. So you're always looking at new ways that you can kind of improve that again. I think the other thing that I would say is that, I think one thing that is important is doing things that can be measured in some way, and you can actually see your journey progressing. And it was important to us that we looked at accreditation in some fashion. And we did look at different options. Green Tourism, which is actually based here in Perth, we had long conversations with them, but we felt that it was more geared towards the actual individual property owners, because it was all about what the property was doing. So we are looking at encouraging our owners to consider the green tourism, but we felt for us as a business, as an agency, it wasn't the right move. We're also looking at B Corp, which obviously is fantastic, but actually as a small business, it's very expensive. So you have a one-off joining fee, which I think is about £250 plus VAT, but then you have an annual fee for the certification, which depends on your sales turnover. So for a small business, the entry point, I think, is £1,000 per year. Now,
okay.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money for a small business. So hats off to bigger corporations and bigger companies that are going down that route, and it's fantastic. And that's obviously a gold standard going forwards. But that wasn't feasible for us at this point. And so we looked around, and then we had a conversation with Quality in Tourism, and we were dealing with Sarah there, who's been absolutely fantastic. She's got a lot of knowledge of the industry, and understood what we were trying to achieve. So we've actually worked very closely with Sarah there, and we've gone down the route of REST accreditation through Quality in Tourism, and that's measuring responsible, ethical, sustainable tourism. And each year we go through an extra process with them, looking at what we said we were going to do and what we've actually done. So it gives us that kind of ability to measure and evaluate, I guess, what we're actually achieving. So again, that was something that was really important to us, and it has to be manageable for the business.
So what sort of data have you gleaned from it? What have been your successes, or what have been some improvements that you've seen?
That's a very good question. And if I had Paul here with me, he'd probably be able to reel off everything. So you've got the wrong person, unfortunately. No, we actually have done a lot, and what we're actually seeing is a change in our guests, actually, as much as anything else. So we actually have had feedback from people whenever they're putting in reviews and just giving us comments, and we are having a lot more people saying that they booked with us because of our sustainability credentials and what we're trying to achieve. And I'm getting we're noticing a younger age group of our clients. So our client base before, our average clients would have probably sat in the kind of mid 30s up to probably mid 50s, 60s. That would have been our average guest age, whereas that's come down, and we're seeing a lot more of the kind of mid 20s up to mid 30 age group booking with us. And again, the feedback has been to do with sustainability. So we're finding it's opening up new markets for us, and also getting a lot more people actually come to us and saying to us, where can I recycle things, or where can I do? So I think it's opening up those conversations and getting people thinking about their part in it a lot more. And also we're starting to see that we're attracting more new properties onto our site that are more focused on sustainability, because we've obviously started from a base where the property owners haven't really thought about that in the past, or not in a big way. Whereas we're getting on more properties now that actually have already got that in mind. So we're taking on properties that have got their electric car chargers or their biomass boilers, or things like that already in place, and have got more plans as well. So I think it's opening more doors as a business to be able to grow our business in a direction that fits with our values as well. So I think that's been a real positive that we've seen already.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, how have you actually broadcast what you're doing? Do you have a specific page on your website? Are you sharing it on social? How are people knowing what you're doing on your Green Path journey?
Yeah, we have it on our website. So we have a page. We have our About Us page, and we've got an extra bit about sustainability and what we're trying to achieve. We also signed up to the Tourism Declares about 2 years ago, so we're part of that process as well. We do send out newsletters, and we're trying to add more content around sustainability and what people can do, even in their own lives, to improve that whole process. But I will say, as a small business, it's myself and Paul that do the day-to-day things. So there's a lot more that we could be doing to tell people about what we're doing, and that's something that we've got in plan for later this year, whenever we come out of peak season and we've got a bit more time, because I think there is this point of we're doing all of these great things, but are we shouting about it enough? And I think there is a lot more room for improvement there. But again, I think equally as a small business, I think it's you've just not got to beat yourself up about it, because you can't do everything all in one go. And it is about taking those small steps, and hopefully, we'll get to our vision as long as we're keeping tapping away at it bit by bit. Whether that's shouting about it more on social media, or talking to more people at networking events about it. we'll just keep tapping away and trying to make that difference where we can.
I'm going to assume that your properties are on OTAs. On those listings, do you mention that the property is a sustainable or eco-friendly property?
Probably not as much as we should do. I've actually had this conversation recently with Booking.com, because Booking.com is one of the ones that has been pushing and have the sustainability badge. And I started to go through the process to try and get the sustainability badge for some of the properties, but it is not very much geared to self-catering in the slightest. It's all geared to hotels. It was asking me about breakfast and where I was sourcing my breakfast items, etc. from. So I've had this conversation with the account manager at Booking.com, and he assures me that it is in the pipeline, but maybe towards the end of the year. So, from our listings do feed through from our own website to the OTAs. So where we're doing some sustainability specific things, they should feed through to the website. But I don't believe that any of the OTAs have really made that fantastic yet in terms of self-catering properties. Well, I mean, if the only way to get it out there on the OTA is to put it in your description, then that's what you got to do for now. Eventually they'll catch up with some filters, but it's a good start. Absolutely.
And did you have any pushback from any of the owners when you said, we want to do this, we would advise you to do this so you can attract more guests, Did you have any pushback from any of the owners? Like, it's not my problem?
No, not at all. I think because we decided to really focus, initially we decided to focus the big effort on our property management properties. And I think the biggest challenge that we actually had from it was bed linen, because we decided that we had all these properties, and ordinarily we would ask owners to supply 3 sets of bed linen towels, and they're all varying qualities. Everybody's got their own ideas of what good standard is and what good quality is, and some are all brightly coloured, which obviously after you wash them a few times it doesn't necessarily look so good, and just a real mishmash. So we decided, as part of our property management, we wanted to provide the linen, and then we could control the fact that it was going to be sustainably sourced and laundered at the temperatures, etc. And that was the biggest challenge. And it wasn't so much from a environmentally friendly perspective, it was more from the fact that they had all this bed linen already that they didn't really want to give up on. So I think our biggest challenge was probably that, to be honest. I think from having the conversations, I think once you start having conversations, most people know that we do need to do something. And I think most people just don't know where to start. And the fact that we were starting that journey for them and guiding them, I think they were actually open to it and looking at suggestions. One thing that we do find with a lot of owners is they don't want to spend too much money. So you have got to look at ways of introducing things that isn't going to impact them too much financially. And if you do have a financial impact, being able to explain why and where they're going to get the benefit back from that.
This is why I was asking about your successes, if there was measurable, like if having an EV charging point at a property, if that meant a greater occupancy rate, or if you could charge a little bit more per nightly rate, or something like that. Because I do wonder whether, I mean, it is supposedly a niche market, and I wonder if you can charge a little bit more if you are offering something like an EV charger. I mean, you are, it narrows down the market for you as a property owner if you're offering an EV charger and no one else in town is. So I was just wondering if there's any data around that.
We don't have at the minute, because we've taken on a property recently that's got the EV charger, but it really is new property. It's only come on towards the end of June, so it is something that we will keep monitoring. We are using dynamic pricing, so that is taken into account to a degree some of the facilities that we're putting in play. But it's something that we definitely would like to monitor and see, and see if it makes a difference on the demand as well. A bit like having a hot tub obviously increases revenue and demand. But I think it'll definitely be something going forwards, because more and more people are using electric vehicles, and I think that's going to keep increasing, especially with the way fuel prices have been going.
Exactly. And an earlier episode on the podcast, I was interviewing Eric from OK to Charge. Now, we learned all about EV charging points and how to get them into your property. But OK to Charge, what they do is they're a box that goes over the outlet, and the guest actually pays for the electricity used to charge their car. So it's no expense to the owner. And in fact, the owner can actually make a little more revenue from that. And so it's almost like a no-brainer. You can actually earn a little bit more and have more people want to stay, and probably charge a little bit more to have this one EV outlet in your home.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. I love it.
And that I was going to say, I think that cuts down the barrier where owners want to do something but don't want to spend too much money. At least they know they can get something back from that as well. So I think that's where you can have your win-win. Exactly.
I think it's a great idea. I do talk about it a fair bit, but I don't know anything about EV cars, and now I do, and I think it's a great idea. This charging point and revenue. Wow. Now, also, just in terms of guests, like I have had questions along the way about how do you educate the guest? So you were saying you recommend to the guest to buy local. I mean, how do you do that? Do you put it in your welcome book about, we're a sustainable company, we encourage you to do X, Y, Z? Is that how you communicate with your guests?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is something that we're evolving at the minute. So ordinarily we would send out, whenever somebody books with us, we'll send out some guest information, and we do put some information about that. And in their arrival information as well, we talk to them about the fact that we're sustainable, and we're focused on sustainability even, and we would encourage them to switch off light switches and stuff like that if they're not in the rooms and they're going out of the properties. So we do things like that. We also encourage them to shop local through providing them with extra information about tips and places to go, and looking at businesses that have, again, a sustainable approach. Perhaps they're sourcing goods locally or making them locally. So we try and encourage them to go to those places. And at the minute, that's all in a Word doc, but we're in the process of moving over to an app as well, so we can then send them more targeted information. So as we evolve over the course of the winter, we'll start to roll that out a lot more. And hopefully that will, again, just allow us to tailor things a bit more to guests and make it more relevant for them, because I think what we need to get away from is being static and just having one size fits all information for everybody.
And what does the rest of the journey look like for Book Touch Stay? What are your next plans? Oh, ClickBook Stay, sorry.
To keep educating our owners and trying to encourage them bit by bit to do a little bit more in each of their properties. So it is looking at things like, and tying up with other companies that are offering things such as the EV charging points and things like that. So it's working a lot more collaboratively. Not an easy word to say. And as I say, getting our message out a bit more and talking to people a bit more about it. So looking at how we're communicating what we're doing and how we can bring more people into the conversation. The more people that you speak to, the more you get some great little ideas and tidbits and things that you can do. I mean, it's even just things like adding plants, it's, plants inside can purify the air, plants outside can attract wildlife, and you can grow your own food, and you can do all these amazing things from very little cost points. So
I think that's great, and I do agree about this collaborative thing. Someone else I spoke to recently, they were talking about you almost start forming a community, a network of people that are like-minded, and then you not feed off each other, but you help each other and you learn from each other. And I think that conversation is, like getting people to tap into that conversation and grow that community. And I think this is where we're sort of, everyone is at. There's little communities, and hopefully one day those will grow and grow and grow, and we'll just have one big happy community.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be nice?
The more people we can all get together,
Yeah.
The greater the ideas and the greater impact we can have. But it's actually makes it a lot more fun as well. Who wants to do everything alone? If you can do it with other people and have a journey where everybody's working together, I think that makes it a lot more exciting.
Yeah. Look, I actually think for any property manager or owner listening, I think the first step on the journey, on the green path, is to join the conversation. You don't have to actually do anything, but just join the conversation and listen and hear what other people are doing. And then the next step might be to actually do something. But I think the first thing is to join the conversation and just start listening. So yes, I think that's a lovely way.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I think, sorry.
Go.
I was just going to say, I completely agree. And I think it's looking at what you've already got in place, because we all have websites, so have you got green hosting? If you've got control of the utilities that you're using in your offices, can you get a green tariff? What are you doing with your recycling? And your, I think it's just looking at the basics of your own business, and having those conversations and looking then at how you can expand that out and impact the different properties and the guests that you're staying with.
I think that's great. Yeah. Oh, we're going to wrap it up now, but I actually think we should have an episode with Paul, and I want to hear from a marine biologist and get some data. Let's have a geek episode.
That sounds good.
Well, Tara, thank you very, very much for your time. It's been great hearing about your story, and I'm really happy that it's trickled through to property owners and to guests. I think that's really lovely, and it's been a pleasure hearing about your story.
Thank you for having me on.
And if you have any questions for Tara, you can pop them into the comments below. I'll put a link for all the things we've discussed, Splosh and Who Gives a Crap, in the description below. And I'm going to say again, goodbye, Tara. Thank you very much for all this lovely story. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.